Hello and welcome back here to the wonderful Knockhill circuit for the Lane Sheep Racing British Touring Car Series here as we head to the final round of the year here in the winter 25/26 season. We have just a few more events left to go in the season. It does not end tonight, though. It is the final race of the 2025 calendar year. We are here then at the wonderful Knockhill circuit for the 19th, 20th and 21st rounds of the season, running the international layout tonight. We are off on Christmas break, though, heading into next week, but we will return for rounds 22, 23 and 24 at what is I consider myself to be a home circuit, just half an hour down the road from me, in a circuit that I visit multiple times every single year. So it's going to be great to see these TCRs around the Silverstone circuit when we return on January 4th in 2026. We then head across to Donington on January 11th. That March 13th is certainly not correct. The final round of the season is on the 18th of January and will remain on that Sunday, of course. So I apologise for that incorrect date there, but what an end to the season it is going to be. Silverstone, Donington and Brands Hatch, great circuits, as is the circuit tonight, of course, around the wonderful Knockhill track, and one that I am absolutely in love with. It feels like a roller coaster. It is going to be some great fun, and with lap times running at about 56 seconds out there, we are sure to see our races decided by laps and not by time once again tonight, just like we saw at Brands Hatch Indy when it was the laps that came to that called the conclusion in that race. It'll be the same here tonight with our three races. The first race of the evening being set by qualifying, which is going to begin in a few minutes' time. The second race of the evening set by the results from race number 1. And the final race of the evening is going to be a top 6 reversed. It is going to be incredibly interesting to see these touring cars heading around the circuit and putting in some great racing, as we see every week indeed. We will be heading again around this wonderful circuit, though, and let's have a little look at the Knockhill Racing circuit. We are running around the Clockwise International Circuit. This is one of the very few circuits around the world that you can actually race in both directions. It was the very first of the UK circuits to be allowed to race in both directions by the FIA, and it is the only FIA approved circuit in the whole of Scotland. Being opened all the way back in 1974, it was created using all of the service roads that were linking a mineral railway, which was disused when it was closed about 23 years prior. So it was used using those service roads, a lot like we saw Silverstone is created by using the service roads of an airbase. It was service roads here, but a very different style of service roads for the Knockhill circuit. We are back then for what is going to be a great evening of racing for our 19th, 20th and 21st rounds of action here tonight around the brilliant Knockhill track. Now, before we get into tonight's racing and the qualifying session that is going to begin very, very shortly in about 5 minutes' time, it is important to note the pole sitters so far this season, because the pole sitters are going to be repeating themselves towards the front, I'm sure. Only 2 drivers have repeated pole position so far this season. That has been Dan Mould and David Johansson. Mould took pole at Alton Park at the beginning of the season and took pole at Thruxton for the 4th event of the season. Johansson took home pole in the second weekend and also the 5th weekend. It was Matt Neal who came home pole in the 3rd weekend, Stephen Hurd who came pole last weekend, and the only driver of those that not down there on circuit tonight is Stephen Hurd. The rest of them are a slightly smaller grid tonight as we lead up to Christmas, of course. Not as many people able to get down onto the track, so it is a smaller grid, but we have seen the smaller grids produce some of the best racing in the season. We think all the way back to Oulton Park at the very beginning of the season. We only had 12 cars there. It was absolutely fantastic to watch. Brands Hatch Indy, we didn't get too many there either, but again, some absolutely fantastic racing. When it comes to the races themselves then, our race wins are going more the way of Dan Mould, of course. Mould has taken 6 wins so far this season, but David Johansson is just behind on 5 right now. Johansson, if we think to the second time we visited Oulton Park a couple of weeks ago, he managed to go the whole hog. He went qualifying, he got pole, then he won all 3 races. It's the only time it's happened so far this season, and it's the only time that a driver has gone on to win all 3 races as well, not just get the pole and take 3. It's the only time all 3 races were won by the same driver. Last week they were won by 3 separate drivers. Stephen Hurd converted his pole position into the race 1 victory. It was only the 3rd time that's happened in the 6 rounds of asking, so it's about a 50-50 chance whether you're going to get pole if you can convert that into a race win or not. Dan Mould came home to take his 6th win of the season at race 2 last week, and Riley Pogue was able to take the win in the 3rd and final race of the day. And it's a real shame that Pogue has backed out of the league as it stands at the moment, because even though he says that he doesn't have a lot of pace, actually he was showing a lot of pace, especially as the races were getting on. He was really learning the car, and he came up with a victory last week at Brands Hatch. So hopefully we'll see him back in the new year for the final 3 weeks of racing, that's for sure, where we head across to Silverstone, Donington and Brands Hatch. But tonight it is a small grid, but it is a fast grid. Our championship leader is at the very front of the field in practice right now. Some other drivers getting their names in at the moment as well. But let's have a look at how the championship standings are out of the previous races. 18 rounds done. We're getting another 3 completed tonight. David Johansson is at the very front of that field, 172 points to his name, 19 points clear. He keeps it up with his consistent results towards the front. He is going to fly ahead. The reason he is, well, I would say still relatively close to the other drivers is because he's not had, ultimately, a bad weekend yet, in which he is dropping, I believe, the points that he is dropping is 80 points in total. That is 40 split across 2 weekends, 40 and 40. So David Johansson is dropping a lot of points in this championship, and yet is still at the very top there. Dan Mould is behind in second. He's not had the best of runs. He's had a bit of issues as the season's gone on, especially at Oulton, of course. First of all, at Oulton, he should have won race 2 in the first round of the season. He should have been able to take the triple, but he crashed himself out from the lead of the race. We returned to Oulton, and in the first race of the day, he had to pull over to the side, and he wasn't able to complete the rest of the evening, and that significantly impacted his points, because he picked up points in the first race because he was within inside the top 15, but he didn't pick up points in the next 2 races. We then, obviously, Dan Mould was able to pick up more points. He's been able to get a good amount of wins, but the consistency has not quite been on his side. Matt Neal sits in 3rd right now, 12 points off of Dan Mould, leading the Alpha Corsa drivers. Thomas Batchelor sits in 4th as well, and those three, the 3 teammates of Batchelor, Brown and Neal are out there once more tonight. Riley Pogue, like I said, not racing the championship tonight. We're hoping he'll be back at the start of next year, because he is actually doing a really good job. Sitting in 5th in the championship right now, 125 points to his name. He's not ridiculously far off a top 3. There is still a possibility if he is to attend the races. Jan Mild sits in 6th position, tied on points with Hayden Ahmed. Mild and Ahmed have been alternating positions for the last few rounds since Thruxton, really. So the last 3 events since the 10th round of the season. However, no Ahmed here tonight is really going to be helping Jan Mild out in that championship and pulling himself forwards. They're only a point clear, though, of Thomas Brown. So Brown could try and get past Jan Mild tonight and is running faster than Mild out there right now. Ronald de Jong is looking to also get up in the that fight, and he has a really good opportunity to do so because he was second fastest, in that practice session. James Paisley Knight sits there in 10th, rounding out the top 10 in the championship. We will be back to look at the championship at the very end of the evening as always, and qualifying now getting going in the background, and we will get ourselves across to have a look at that in just one moment's time. But as I say that, our custom camera angles have not loaded, so we will get across there in just a moment. As just a reminder what this calendar looks like, it is here at Knockhill, the final race of the year, and then we will be across to Silverstone, Donington and Brands Hatch for the very end of the season at the start of 2026. Right, we are ready to go then. Qualifying is underway and drivers are out for the first time tonight under the foggy skies of Knockhill. What was going to be a wet race, it is not a wet race tonight. That being said, Jan Mild is out there on wet tyres, which will be slowing him down significantly, and I'm really hoping that he is aware that he's on those wet tyres and he'll switch those across. Very popular car tonight is the Honda, as it's been all season long. A couple of Hyundais out there, David Johansson, Ronald de Jong in the 2 Hyundais, as de Jong goes completely off the circuit there and will invalidate that lap. We got David Johansson, though, championship leader, was fastest in the practice session. Will he be able to repeat that feat tonight? It's not the Elantra for him tonight, but he is in another one of the Hyundais as we come across the timing line for David Johansson, and for the time being it will be the fastest, but not for long, because Dan Mould goes faster and goes purple by 0.5 of a second, as that was a couple of teammates there. Batchelor, Brown, Neil, all having issues by the looks of it there. We'll see if we can get another view of that one as we headed up towards turn number 1. The foggy skies. Believe you me, I have not put any filter on this. This is just how foggy it is around the Scottish Isles, and that was straight on there from Brown. What happened to Batchelor? Just went wide, lost the rear end in the grass, and straight into the tyre wall with a heavy hit. Now, of course, the laps are very short here, so Brown is going to be able to get going straight away to get around onto a new hot lap here and see what he can do on a second run. De Jong will be hoping to get in a valid lap this time after we saw him run off the circuit and into the gravel. Will it be a valid lap for de Jong? That time around it was not, but let's have a ride on board because there is potential for it now. Ronald de Jong in the number 91 machine, racing for the Hydro Race Racing Forces machine, of course, that we have seen out there this season. And de Jong doing well to put himself back into a championship. Has not had the easiest set of races. Are we going to see a new pole sitter tonight? Or are Mould or Johansson going to find their way to a third pole? Are we going to see a new race winner tonight? I'm sure it would be very nice for each of the races. We head heavy onto the brakes here. Mild is running extremely slow, but like I said, on those wet tyres as Johansson goes purple by almost 0.3 of a second. What is it going to be for Ronald de Jong? It's enough for 4th position right now. Brown has found his way to 2nd, and Dan Mould will now be looking to try and find a little bit of extra time around here, up that chicane, off the circuit though, and kicking up some of the gravels. Very easy to do to invalidate your lap times out there. We're watching Jan Mild here in the number 24 machine on the wet compounder tyres as Thomas Batchelor has just begun a flying lap as it was a slow one on that last one. I don't believe representative of a best lap time there because it's slower than a driver who is on wet tyres for Batchelor right now, which doesn't seem like him at all. Not getting the benefit around this circuit like we've seen previously of getting the tow, and therefore the three Alpha Corsa drivers not running together out there. It's very much running around on their own to get this one done, but through the final turn we go and up towards the timing line, and it is a very, very nice, strong lap around. But is it an improvement? It certainly is. It's an improvement up to 5th position on that one. Right, we continue up through the first chicane as we come back across to the drivers towards the very front right now. Thomas Brown, the second fastest out there, is heading up towards the end of the lap to improve. If he is able to, let's ride on board with Thomas Brown third fast right now, because Matt Neal has just found 200th of a second, and Thomas Brown finds even more time, and it is the two Alpha Corsas out front. Will Thomas Brown find his way to pole position for the first time this season here at the 7th week of asking? Of course, we're running around the 19th, 20th and 21st round of the season, jumping out the way there and making sure that Brown could continue on a lap time as we head up towards the hairpin, which if we were running the national course we would cut off there and we wouldn't do the loop right now that we've got the tri-oval, but of course running the international and heading all the way up to the 9th turn and up towards the timing line. David Johansson has gone purple and has found a lap time of a 52.653. Will it be an improvement for Thomas Brown? It is an improvement for Thomas Brown, but not enough to go faster. Dan Mould has found his way back into 2nd position, as well as Matt Neal down to 4th, was temporarily up there, no longer up there, is constantly changing within that top 5. I think that any one of the top 4 themselves, or sorry, the top 5 themselves, could find their way onto pole position by the end of this. 3 minutes left on the clock. Of course, once that timer ticks to 0, it is done. And I am just noticing, is that an intentional livery thing, or is that that is the Alpha Corsa is wrapped in a Christmas bow here. I was wondering if that was an issue on my livery side of things. No, that is wrapped in a Christmas bow for the Alpha Corsa machines. There you go, as we watch number 15 of Matt Neal go past your screens. Will it be an improvement for Dan Mould, who is just behind Neal on the circuit, really pushing it hard over the chicane there? And it's so easy to invalidate your lap here at Knockhill, but you're going to want to push it as hard as you possibly can to find your way towards the front. And at the moment it is incredibly close with our drivers at the very, very front. In fact, Gregory Speakman and Jan Mild, the only two drivers slightly off of this here, and Mild has switched across to dry tyres. Will we see a representative lap time now for Jan Mild, who was running on the wet tyres at the beginning of this session, as Mould does go fastest by 0.2 of a second. It is Johansson sat directly behind here and looking to improve on his own lap time to find his way back to pole position, as Jan Mild has found a significant amount of time on the dry tyres and has gone 7th fastest right now. If Mould or Johansson get pole here, they will be going for their 3rd pole of the season at the 7th week of asking. Johansson invalidating his lap in the Sim Racing Grid machine there, so it won't be a valid lap this time around. You'll have to wait until the next lap to try to go again. Will he have enough time? Looking at the clock, Johansson is not going to have enough time to complete the lap as Matt Neal goes 3rd fastest. Can Ronald de Jong improve here and go any faster as we go across the line. He's 6th fastest right now, a second off the pace. It's an invalid lap for him, as well as it is a massive amount of time found for Jan Mild, and the top 7 are all within 1 second of each other right now. But that will be everyone with a lap time on the board. They will not be able to get any more lap times in as we head into the final part of this qualifying session, which means that our grid is as stands, I believe. I'm keeping a very last eye out on the qualifying times, but there are no changes towards the end, so drivers will prepare themselves for the first of 3 races tonight, lapped races, not timed races tonight, with it being 12 laps of asking. We are going to get the grid up then for this one as we have as we prepare ourselves for the first race of asking, and it is going to be Dan Mould on pole position for the 3rd time this season. He goes and knocks another record to the top for him. David Johansson, championship leader, will start alongside in 2nd. Matt Neal is going to be in 3rd position ahead of Thomas Brown. Thomas Batchelor starts in 5th. Jan Mild will start in 6th position, and Ronald de Jong in 7th alongside Gregory Speakman at the back of this field. Drivers then preparing themselves away for the race around Knockhill, which is going to be dictated by laps once again tonight, like it was at Brands Hatch last week, as it is 12 laps or 12 minutes, whichever comes first. And in the case of Knockhill, with a lap time of under 1 minute, 12 laps will be first. The results of this first race of the day are going to dictate the grid for race number 2. Race number 3 will be decided by the race 2 results, with the top 6 reversed. Are we going to see Matt Neal and Thomas Brown come back onto the grid? We certainly are. They disappeared for just a moment there, but we are getting ourselves ready for the first of 3 rounds tonight. The fog has lifted, and we are going to begin in just a moment's time. I hope you are all enjoying this as you're watching, and if you're new around here, make sure you hit that follow button so you're notified when we go live, not just here in the Lame Sheep Racing's British Touring Car Series, but all of the events that we do at Joseph Wright Broadcasting. As we head into 2026, we have a lot of events on the calendar, and it is going to be an absolutely eventful year, that's for sure. 12 laps on the board then for the first race of the day here at Knockhill. And the lights are down and we are green for round number 18. We head up towards turn number 1. A great launch for Dan Mould. Johansson behind Neal off the line. They settle themselves in single file down the first chicane, but a swap at the front with the championship leader down to 3rd position now. Thomas Brown is all over his rear, looking to try and maybe get another Alpha Corsa in front of the leader here. It is kicking up a little bit of water out there. It is very damp out on the circuit right now, is why we saw the wet tyres earlier, and I can see just a little bit potential rain falling there, but for the most part it's just a little bit of water being kicked up. That'll go away if no more rain falls, as Ronald de Jong looks to try and get past Thomas Batchelor. Jan Mild and Gregory Speakman have had issues on the start of this race, but that is lap number 1 done, and it is going to be leading from Dan Mould. Matt Neal in 2nd, and off the circuit goes David Johansson, the championship leader. Started in 2nd, down to 6th position. What's happened to Johansson there? Is it all by himself? It is. Losing the rear end, getting into the gravel. De Jong following to the gravel, but keeping it much straighter there. So we head over the chicane. De Jong and Johansson side by side once more as we head up towards turn number 9 of the final corner. Johansson on the inside of De Jong. De Jong trying to carry it on that outside line. Couldn't quite do it and will have to let David Johansson through. Dan Mould at the front of the field goes purple at the moment. Johansson now on a recovery drive from this one. A second behind Batchelor. Batchelor onto the grass though. Recovers it. Will get a slowdown as Brown visits the gravel. Drivers just pushing a bit too hard in this first race of the day, and there is just gravel all over the circuit around here right now. We ride on board with David Johansson, who looks to try and get past Thomas Batchelor now to the right hand side, getting squeezed all the way to the grass, but there is space, or is there? There's contact between the two of them, and Batchelor into the wall heavy, making sure he avoided everyone else in that one. Let's have another watch of that one though, from a different view. It will be down pit lane for Thomas Batchelor there. As we head up now towards the final turn. This is how it happened. I mean, Johansson is there. There's just enough room, but it was onto the grass. And as you can see, that was trying to make sure that Batchelor didn't go into anyone else when he visited the circuit like that, just making sure he was out of the way. But he will be back down on track after getting his quick repair, and Batchelor will be getting the points for 8th, and will be trying to recover later on in the event. And it is, do you know what, the unfortunate curse of the Alpha courses, isn't it? They have an instance between themselves so often. This time turned by Johansson. But who was really at fault for that? You'd have to ask. It would be something that will have to be reviewed afterwards, and not something that I can really make a quick decision on. This is Matt Neal chasing down Dan Mould at the front. Mould has had 6 victories to his name in the 18 rounds of competition, whereas Matt Neal has only found his way to victory lane twice. That was at round 6 at Donington and round 9 at Snetterton. Can he find his way back to the front here at the 19th round of asking? He loses a bit of time this time around, however. The fight behind is for 3rd, being led by Thomas Brown. It's David Johansson behind in 4th. Ronald de Jong in 5th position, and a question there, is that the real Matt Neal? I mean, it is a real Matt Neal, that is certain, but it is not the BTCC driver. If you want to see BTCC drivers in action, then head across to our YouTube channel. You can head and watch the Next Gen Mazda series, and you'll see the BTCC driver of Mikey Dobu competing in that, along with some interviews with him throughout the course of the season. With the Lane Sheep Racing's Touring Car Championship, though, it is Dan Mould still leading the way ahead of Matt Neal. Thomas Brown running around in 3rd ahead of David Johansson. Ronald de Jong in 5th position right now, is just behind this chain of drivers that are chasing along to try and potentially get a podium. Neal has closed the gap down to Mould once more to about 0.8 of a second through the final hairpin. Goes the battle for 3rd. Gregory Speakman and Jan Mild are currently going at it behind as well, with Mild on the outside of Speakman. They're side by side as they exit the final turn. Jan Mild and Gregory Speakman fighting it out here for 6th position as they go across the timing line side by side. We're halfway through the race, heading onto the brakes there, and it will be position to Speakman for now, but Mild is not going to be giving up in this fight for 6th. As Speakman gets onto the gravel, Mild moves to the inside. Not quite enough racing room there for him, and he will have to wait behind yet again in this one as we head through turn number 7. The fight opens up to about 0.4 of a second, which means that this fight right now is the closest out there. I mean, Johansson's right behind Brown as well, with a purple lap from Johansson, is really showing his charge to get back into a better result, back onto the podium after falling down on his own accord earlier in the race. But Mould leading the way right now, hunting his 7th victory. Neil hunting his 3rd victory of the season as Johansson looks to the inside of Thomas Brown. Is there enough room? There's contact again, and this time Johansson is shoved off the circuit. Brown will remain in 3rd. De Jong goes through, but after contact with Thomas Batchelor earlier on that took Batchelor out of the race, contact with Batchelor's teammate, Brown was having absolutely none of that though. Let's have another look at how this fight for 3rd position ended. Through turn 7, there's a little bit of a nudge there, and then there's just another nudge as both drivers trying to hold their cars, and Brown just putting putting Johansson into the glass, and De Jong moving through and up to 4th position there. So Thomas Brown 6 seconds off the fight for the lead, but is a second clear now in the fight for 3rd as we head up towards the 3rd to last lap of this race. Is the first of 3 races tonight. They are quick, they are fun, and they are going to get done really, really quickly. If you want to get involved in these runs, then make sure you head across to the Discord channel, which was over on the YouTube. There is a link to the Discord that you can get yourself involved in once this video goes up there. Head across to the LSR British Touring Car Series Discord to get yourself involved in these races. 3 more events to go as we head into the 2026 year as well. As we head to Silverstone, we head to Snetterton, we head to Silverstone, we head to Donington, and we head to Brands Hatch. It's a great way to end the season, and it's going to be brilliant racing as always. Matt Neal still chasing down as David Johansson and De Jong alternate positions there. We will see how that happened once more once we've got to the hairpin and confirmed that Johansson is going to stay ahead of De Jong. That's certainly how it's going to be, and this is how that overtake occurred, with De Jong being ahead through the chicane. But what a run from Johansson, a huge amount of speed and much more to car alongside than he had with Brown before, and he gets the overtake complete. Nicely done there, and Johansson now up to 4th, chasing down for 3rd with 2 laps to go. With that being said, Jan Mild going on to the penultimate lap of asking, looking to get past Gregory Speakman once more. Will we see him look to the inside? No, he decides to back out of that one and allow Speakman to stay ahead. For now, Dan Mould is leading ahead of Matt Neal as we head up towards the braking zone. As Neal looking to try and take his 3rd win of the season, but at the moment it is looking like it's going to go the way of Dan Mould with a 7th win to his name. He also goes purple on that lap as well. It'll only be the 2nd time that Dan Mould has converted his pole into a race win for race number 1. He wasn't able to do it at Thruxton. In fact, Mould was only able to win race number 2 at Thruxton, as Johansson is just too far back off of Brown for anything to happen there. But the first of the races here are going to come to a close, and we are going to have a victory for Dan Mould. As we head through the final turn, Dan Mould is going to take the win here around Knockhill for round number 19, and for the 7th time this season, Dan Mould is a race winner ahead of Matt Neal. It is going to be Thomas Brown in 3rd position. David Johansson crosses the line in 4th, ahead of Ronald De Jong. Is Speakman going to be able to stay ahead of Mild? Through the final turn, he runs wide. It's going to be a drag race to the line. Who is going to get this? Mild's got the speed and across the line. Jan Mild takes 6th. Gregory Speakman comes home in 7th. And after having to come down pit lane to repair his car, Thomas Batchelor will take 8th place in this race, and we'll be hoping for better in the second race of the day. Race 1 then sorted. Drivers are going to grid themselves up for race number 2, which is going to start in the same order in which we finished race number 1. So let's just confirm that grid order for you here. Dan Mould will be starting this one from the front of the field once more. Matt Neal will be starting from second ahead of Thomas Brown. David Johansson started on the front row of the grid in race 1. It'll be the second row here in race 2, starting in 4th behind Ronald de Jong. Ahead of Ronald de Jong. Jan Mild will be starting in 6th position. 7th position will go the way of Gregory Speakman, and Thomas Batchelor, after issues in race 1, will need to work it out from 8th position on the grid. Of course, in this race, you are going to want to find yourself inside the top 6 positions, because that is the invert. So if you aren't having the best race, 5th or 6th is really going to help you out. The invert not having a huge detrimental effect on race winners, but Dan Mould is looking to repeat what he managed to do at Snetterton for round 7 and 8, where he went back-to-back race victories. It is the only time this season that Mould has found the race win back-to-back. The only other driver to get back-to-back wins so far this season has been David Johansson. Of course, Johansson taking the triple at Alton in 13, 14 and 15. Who is going to win the 20th round of asking here as we prepare for another 12 laps of racing for the second race of the day? The third race of the day, of course, coming up straight away at the end of this one. Nice and quick for all of the races tonight, and this isn't the only racing action we've got going tonight at the end of tonight's event. We are going to be sticking around for a brand new event, so make sure you stay tuned. Race number 2 then, 12 laps on the board. Dan Mould at the front once more, spinning those tyres, and we are green for round number 20. As we head up towards turn number 1, Matt Neal pulls away good in second, Thomas Brown in third, but Johansson straight away looking to try and make a move for that podium, and a move for the front here as Matt Neal goes to the inside of Dan Mould, and Matt Neal leads. After the very start of this lap, he is leading ahead of Mould. Brown in third, Johansson sitting in 4th position, but Mould looking to try and get back up the inside. There's contact, and Matt Neal is onto the grass, and here comes Johansson. Brown moves to the lead as they head up towards the hairpin. Mould's back in it right now up the inside of Johansson. It's all gone hectic, and Mould's around. Mould's facing the wrong way. He touches the barrier, and Dan Mould is out of the race. De Jong gets past Johansson. It is absolute mayhem on the opening lap of race number 2 here at Knockhill. We will get back and have a look at those when we get an opportunity to. Matt Neal moves back into the lead of the race past Thomas Brown. So Matt Neal leads race number 2 ahead of Thomas Brown. Ronald de Jong in third. Right now, de Jong is the only driver inside the top 4 not to have taken a race victory yet this season. Can he find his way to victory lane? Right now, he has got the championship leader all over his rear bumper, though. It is extremely close. This is in the entire top 7 in this one. Mould will not be involved in the invert either, which means only one driver still racing out there won't be in the invert, and you can see how close the entire field still is, and that's a slide from Johansson, picking up the gravel. It's where he went wrong in race 1. It's a slide behind from Speakman, and here comes Mould. Batchelor looking to try and find his way into the invert right now. A little bit of gravel being kicked up. Bachelor on the rear end of Mile. The leading four drivers setting themselves down in a nice line just up ahead. But Bachelor looks to the outside of Jan Mild. Are they all going to get them slowed down? They are. Speakman leaves the door open. Miles to the inside. Is it going to be 3 wide? It was almost 3 wide as Thomas Bachelor looked to the inside, but it is side by side here with Mild and Speakman in 5th and 6th position. Mild though under attack from Bachelor on the outside. He's got the speed on the exit. It could have been an opportunity to get past Speakman. It's not quite. Bachelor doesn't quite know where to go. Speakman's onto the gravel. Mild ducked up the inside. Wasn't enough space. It was gone by the time he got there. And Speakman's off again. And through goes Jan Mild up into 5th position as De Jong and Johansson now fighting it out also in the battle for 3rd position. De Jong leading the championship leader of David Johansson. We get into the final turn. Teammates Matt Neal, Thomas Brown leading out this one at the front. Brown and Neal, both of them 2 victories to their name. Are they going to fight out? Are they going to take it a little bit easier? Matt Neal gets the purple lap. Bachelor now on the rear end of Jan Mild, looking to try and get potentially into a top 5 as we head in towards turn number 1. Doesn't go for the move. Looking for a potential line after the chicane will be a good place to get yourself sorted as Dan Mild officially out of race number 2. A shame for him, as I said. Some really great results for Dan Mould. He just hasn't shown that consistency through the season. And there's something has happened there towards the front of the field as De Jong now looks to the inside of Thomas Brown. There's constant action happening. I want to get a look at everything that's happened. But De Jong now back up to 3rd. Johansson into 2nd. Thomas Brown all over the rear end here and looking now to potentially go to the inside for Brown to get back onto a podium position. Is side by side and Thomas Brown gets the inside of De Jong. Runs a bit deep though. We're trying to get that position but places it perfectly ahead of De Jong, and Thomas Brown up into 3rd position once more. Let's see how that all occurred here, because there was a lot going on at the very start of this race, and I want to try and see what we can about all of that happened. This is what happened at the turn number 7. So Mould looks up the inside of Neal. There's that slight touch. They come together. Neal wobbles, and then they are just absolutely swallowed there by the drivers around. What then happened to Mould on the exit? And it's just trying to push Johansson there. Johansson trying to get back onto the circuit. There wasn't enough room. Mould couldn't move to his right. Johansson didn't know that they were 3 wide, and just contact there. What happened in that battle for 2nd position very recently? Here's how that one occurred. So this was Johansson behind De Jong. That's Thomas Brown ahead. Brown obviously now back ahead of De Jong. But that's Johansson looking up the inside of De Jong. And is it contact? No! It's just really slow. A slowdown. It was a slowdown for Thomas Brown that allowed that to happen. And the change for positions out the front there. Matt Neal leads the way. Championship leader David Johansson runs around in 2nd position right now, a few seconds ahead of Thomas Brown. Brown has pulled that gap now ahead of Ronald De Jong, 0.8 of a second. Can Johansson close down to Neal? You can just see how much gravel is pulled onto the circuit, and that's with just 8 cars racing. That is absolutely mental here. If you want to get involved in the league and join this incredible racing, make sure that you check out the Lane Sheep Racing British Club Series Discord, and you can get yourself involved in that one as we head through the final turn and up towards the timing line. And as I just had a little look in the Discord, and I was pinged. You should have a look at the Alpha Corsa Christmas scheme. Of course, we did notice that Christmas scheme during the qualifying session. I thought it was originally something wrong with my my overlay, my livery painting software, but it was not. It was, in fact, a issue with their livery. They've decided to wrap their car up for Christmas, and to be fair, Matt Neal decided he's wrapped up. He was going to send it, and that's exactly what he did on Dan Mould through turn number 3, which gave him the lead of the race. Will he hold on to the lead of the race? He has got Johansson chasing down behind here. We ride on board with the race leader, Matt Neal, up towards the timing line. They go. Johansson, 3/10 of a second back right now. He is the fastest man out there, which he put in last lap, 2 laps ago, not last lap. And heading now through turn 1, across the turn 2. Both drivers doing a great job to keep it right on the racing line. Johansson is all over the rear of Neal though, and we've seen that Johansson can do a really good chicane, but Neal got a better chicane done with that one. They're coming up towards the timing line to go to just 2 laps remaining here over the gravel, ever so slightly there, but not much being kicked onto the racing surface as we head up now towards the braking zone to slam on the brakes for Matt Neal and into the final turn. Matt Neal is leading the way out the front still, but Johansson is closer behind this time as we go on to the penultimate lap of asking. Matt Neal leading the way. Johansson looks to the outside. They're going for different lines. It's a bit of a wobble from David Johansson. He's all over the rear of Matt Neal now. It still can't find a way through at the moment. Neal keeps it on the circuit. Doesn't open the door going off the track there. Gets up a little bit of gravel. Will Johansson go to the inside? He's tried that move a number of times. It's almost always ended in contact. This time he stays behind as we head up towards the final lap of asking. Is he going to make a move into turn 9 on the penultimate lap? No, he doesn't. Trying to bait Neal into going a little bit deep there. Will it help out on the exit? The white flags are waving as we go on to the final lap of round 20 here. Who is going to win? Matt Neal for the 3rd time or David Johansson for the 6th time? Neal gets the inside line into turn 1 and can hold that position very nicely indeed. Another side from Johansson, who is pushing incredibly hard from 2nd position behind Matt Neal now. Up towards turn number 7. Can Neal hold on at the front of the field? It's going to be a slide from both drivers. Johansson on the way in. Neal on the way in. Johansson on the way out. But Neal has the gap. And Matt Neal, for the 3rd time this season, is going to come across the line to win a race, and it is only the 1st time he doesn't do it in race number 3. Matt Neal wins ahead of David Johansson. Thomas Brown comes home 3rd, Ronald de Jong in 4th. Thomas Batchelor just stays ahead of Jan Mild. Mild will get pole position in the final race of the day. Gregory Speakman will come across the line in 7th and just miss out on the reverse grid pole, and Dan Mould will start at the back of the field if we see him for the final race, which I certainly hope we will. Talking of the final race of the day, let's have a look at our race number 3 and round 21, the final British Touring Car Series race of the year, but not of the season, which will return at Silverstone on January 4th. Pole will go to Jan Mild. 2nd will be Thomas Batchelor. 3rd will be for Ronald de Jong, and Thomas Brown will start in 4th. David Johansson will be in 5th position ahead of race 2 winner Matt Neal. Next on the grid will be Gregory Speakman, and at the back, if we see him out again for the final race, will be Dan Mould. But this is the last race of the day. We have another 12 laps of racing action coming your way. The top 6 reverse from race number 2. If you are new around here and you have not caught the broadcast before, make sure you hit that follow button. You'll be notified when we go live, not just for this series, for all of the different events we've got lined up in 2026. And also make sure you head across to our YouTube channel, which you will find at Joseph Wright TV, at Joseph Wright TV, which has just been rebranded from our old channel. So make sure you head across there. You can catch up with all of the previous live streams, as well as all of the extended highlights that are currently available, all of the events that are coming to an end tonight. Today is our last stream here on the channel for the year. All of the highlights will be up by New Year's Day, so everything in 2025 will be up to date, and you can catch that over on the YouTube channel. But we are here then for race number 3, round 21, the final race of the day. 7 cars will take the grid, with Dan Mould out of race 2, not competing here in race number 3. 12 laps on the board, the lights will be up, and they are down, and we are away for round 21 here at Knockhill. It is side by side up towards turn number 1, a slow launch from Jan Mild, a great launch from Bachelor. Is side by side also there with Thomas Brown. Thomas Brown and Jan Mild side by side at the front of this field. A huge amount of two-wheeling action there from Mild. It's De Jong around the outside. Johansson jumped the start. Johansson goes 3 wide out of the chicane. But David Johansson will have to visit pit lane to serve a jump start penalty. Not what the championship leader will want. Matt Neal and De Jong running side by side here up towards the final turn. They settle themselves down as Brown and Speakman momentarily go inside each other there. They sort themselves out though as the netcode fixes itself. But Johansson manages to get to second on the grid here, but does have a black flag. Jan Mild down to 6th on the opening lap of asking from first position. A huge amount of changing positions there. Matt Neal, race 2 winner, is up to 4th from 6th on the grid. Who is going to be able to find themselves to a victory here? If Thomas Bachelor is able to do it tonight, it will be the first time that Bachelor has won a race this season. And race number 3 has been a good race for first-time winners. We saw Pogue take his first win in a race number 3 last week at Brands Hatch. We saw Neil take his first win at a race number 3 all the way back at Donington, as that's a big dive to the inside from Matt Neal to get to the inside of Ronald de Jong, and he makes it, and there goes Johansson down pit lane. It's a very short pit lane here, so he's not going to be able to fight for the lead of the race, but it doesn't mean that he will be out of contention as we head up now through the first chicane. Neal and De Jong were side by side as De Jong goes off. He wants to hold on to second position. Ronald de Jong in second right now ahead of Matt Neal and Thomas Brown. Thomas Bachelor has an almost 2-second gap at the very front of this race, which is going to be excellent for his hunt for a first victory this season. We head up now towards the final hairpin. It is De Jong ahead of Neal, ahead of Brown. Through the hairpin they go, and up towards the timing line. Thomas Bachelor leads the way. Ronald de Jong, Matt Neal and Thomas Brown cross the line behind in the hunt for second, being led right now by Ronald de Jong. He's got the 2 Alpha Corsa teammates sitting just behind. He has the Alpha Corsa teammate sitting ahead of him as well. He's preventing what could potentially be an Alpha Corsa podium, which I don't believe we've seen so far this season. Johansson is only 1.5 seconds back off of Speakman, which means in total he is about 6 seconds back from this fight right now. Not impossible, but very improbable for a fight up towards the front of the podium. De Jong has closed the gap back down towards Bachelor though to 1.1 seconds as that time continues to close down as it stands half a second quicker than Bachelor on that lap. Matt Neal running the purple on that one as they come around here. And you see that they are closing up towards Thomas Bachelor now, who ran onto the gravel a little bit there, so we could have a 4-car fight for the race lead, especially as Batchelor goes off the circuit. Neil tries to get the inside of De Jong. He gets there. De Jong wanted to go to the inside of Batchelor, couldn't do it. There's contact as the Alpha Corsas, they are constantly tripping over themselves. They've now got De Jong in the mix as well. Are they going to be able to come back out of this one without tripping over anyone? A little bit of contact there as Thomas Brown goes to the inside of Matt Neal. Now, Thomas Batchelor, race number 1, was in the wall, remember. If he can come back to win this one, that'll be a great return. After having a very poor round number 19, he recovered to 5th in round 20, and for round 21, starting from 2nd, straight into the lead of the race past Jan Mild, currently leading a 4-car train, 3 of which are the Alpha Corsa team. Ronald de Jong, the only driver up there right now that is not a part of that team, as the 7 drivers in the race head up towards the final turn. You can see the Alpha Corsa team right now dominating the front of the field and looking for a triple podium if they can. Neil going for a potential move on the exit, doesn't turn into anything there as they come across the timing line, and we go halfway through this race right now. Thomas Batchelor leading the way, ahead of De Jong, ahead of Matt Neal, and ahead of Thomas Brown, Jan Mild in a world of his own, ahead of David Johansson, who has moved past Gregory Speakman. That's how that happened. As it looks like it was just a bit of a mistake from Neil, sorry, from Speakman. He's onto the gravel, and through goes Johansson. Right, back up to the battle at the very front. It looked like there may have been a momentary move there. It looks like there could have been a potential opportunity. We're going to go back live, though, because Matt Neal's to the inside of Ronald de Jong, and it is going to be de Jong down behind Neil right now. They come up towards the timing line, but de Jong has got the speed up towards turn 1. He's going to be stuck on the outside. He is going to back down and let Matt Neal hold on to that position for just a moment, and here comes Thomas Brown. Dives up the inside of Ronald de Jong, and the Alpha Corsas lead the way. Thomas Batchelor ahead of Matt Neal, ahead of Thomas Brown, who took full advantage of de Jong just running a little bit slowly there. We will jump back once more to how the position originally almost changed. There you go, to the inside, just like we saw actually for the race lead on the first lap, just like we saw Brown pull on de Jong, but this lap, the previous lap, de Jong was able to hold it. Not this time though. De Jong down to 4th now and chasing down the Alpha Corsa teammates. How hard are they going to fight? Matt Neal has taken 3 victories this season. Thomas Brown has taken 2 victories this season. Thomas Batchelor has not got any victories to his name this season. Could this be the one as we head up towards 3 to go? As Thomas Batchelor leads the way over the trainer drivers behind them. If the Alpha Corsa can work together and pull away from de Jong, it will very much help out. Jan Mild has closed up towards de Jong himself. Johansson is putting in the purples right now, but has 3 laps to close up, 4.5 seconds, and then make 4 overtakes if he really wants to find his way into second. But Johansson, with that penalty from the jump star here, is doing a great job. He is going to get points for 6th. He is going to get points for the bonus lap as well. But this is going to be an evening in which will become a drop, no doubt, for David Johansson with this result. That's how consistent he has been, that the strong results that he has had tonight, and then a race where he's going to finish outside of the top 5 is going to become a drop for him, as Batchelor and Neal could go for a potential battle here. But that being said, Johansson, he took the triple back at rounds 13, 14, 15 at Alton Park. He has not won a race since, as Batchelor goes wide. Here comes Matt Neal. These 3 teammates have tripped over themselves countless times this season. Can they fight it out without contact this time as Brown gets past Batchelor as well, and what could have been a first win of the season for Thomas Batchelor. He falls to third. Matt Neal now leads and looking for a fourth win of the season, which will only put him one win behind championship leader David Johansson, and but it will still be three behind Dan Mould as it stands. But that is the lead for Matt Neal as we come up towards the white flag lap and the last lap of the year. We're still going to have 9 championship rounds across 3 events in 2026. But for the last time this season, this year, we are going to get the white flag lap. Matt Neal leads ahead of Thomas Brown. Thomas Batchelor in third. Can Ronald de Jong find his way onto the podium past Ronald Batchelor? It is going to be hard. He looks to try and make that move. That was done to him countless times. It doesn't work out from that far back. It is going to be a very hard task to go from half a second back here. But what will be a great result for the Alpha Corsa team if Batchelor can hold off on de Jong here. It's going to be a triple for the Alpha Corsas, and they are going to have a clean sweep of the podium. Brown trying to do a different line through the final turn. It's not going to work out. And Matt Neal is going to win ahead of Brown and Batchelor. De Jong takes fourth. Jan Marl comes home in fifth. Johansson comes home in sixth. And Gregory Speakman comes around the final turn to take home 7th position in this one. What a great evening of racing as always. What a great result as well. Won by Matt Neal, Thomas Brown and Thomas Batchelor all coming in there for taking the top 3 all on the Alpha Corsa team. De Jong coming home in 4th out of Jan Mard. David Johansson coming home in 6th out of Gregory Speakman. And Dan Mould not starting the final race of the day. How is that going to make the championship standings look? David Johansson leads the way. This is what it is with drop weeks, right? This is how drop weeks work. He is leading the way with a bigger gap than what he walked into this evening with. David Johansson, 212 points to his name. Matt Neal is in second with 185 points, has moved past Dan Mould with what was his 4th win of the season and the first time Neal has found 2 wins in a single weekend. It's the second time an Alpha Corsa has managed to do that, of course. Thomas Brown was able to do that at Thruxton around 10, around 12. Talking about the Alpha Corsa teammates, Thomas Batchelor's up in 4th now. Brown's up to 5th. De Jong in 6th position. Jan Mard in 7th. 2 points clear. Riley Poe drops all the way down to 8th position, not racing tonight. And you can see how significant one weekend gone can have on your championship. Hayden Ahmed sits in 9th. And Gregory Speakman finds his way into a top 10 spot in the championship, moving past James Paisley Knight. Paul Titmer sits in 12th with 88 points, a point ahead of Demis Titchener. Then coming down the championship, you've got Hurd, Malcolm, Theros, Paver, Burgess, Heron and Hallworth. And at the back of the championship, we've got Chris, Leolis, Sant, Turkinson, Pritchard, and Turkinson, Lewis, and Adam Turkinson, of course. So that was the championship then. It has been a very, very good year of racing so far. But like I say, it is not over yet. Yes, we are done for 2025, but the league continues. In 2026, we return on January 4th for the round at Silverstone. We then head across to Donington on January 11th, and ignore the date there, it is incorrect. We head across for the final 3 rounds at Brands Hatch, the GP Loop, on January the 18th. We still got 3 weeks of racing to go. Just a nice little break here over the Christmas period. So here then from Lane Sheep Racing and the British Touring Car Series for the winter 25-26 season. I hope you have a fantastic Christmas break, that you really enjoy whatever it is that you're doing. You celebrate your New Year's in style, and you are back with us in the new year for the remainder of this season. 3 more events, 9 more rounds to go. It is going to be a good one. Will Johansson continue to pull away at the front? I think he might, but that fight behind is very much on, especially now between the Alpha Corsa drivers, who are really putting it together as the season has gone on. We are not done here tonight, though, on the Joseph Wright Broadcasting channel, though, because we do have another event coming up in a moment, so make sure you don't turn off your streaming device, your TV, whatever you're watching us on. And if you haven't done so already, hit that follow button so you are notified when we go live. This is our final broadcast of the year, but we will be back on Friday, the 2nd of January at 9:15 p.m. UK time for the next races in the SRL pre-season event, and that's again in the touring cars. So if you like touring cars, we've got them on multiple days here on the Joseph Wright Broadcasting channel. Make sure you also head across to the YouTube page, where you can catch up with all of the full race replays and the extended highlights if you don't have that much time to catch up on the races. But thank you so much for watching here tonight. Like I say, don't go anywhere, because we are going to stay live here as we've got another event coming your way. However, from the Lane Sheep Racing, we hope you have a brilliant Christmas, and we will see you in the new year for rounds the 22 to 30. We return at Silverstone on the 4th of January. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.